A very good morning, children. Today we are going to do a poem. The name of the poem is Geography Lesson by Zulfikar Ghosh. Children, Zulfikar Ghosh was a Pakistani American novelist, essayist, poet, critic. He was born in Pakistan. Now, when India was separated into India and Pakistan, the family left for England. And he became an American only after he finished his studies and when he started teaching. So originally, he is a Pakistani who got American citizenship. Now, geography lesson. You have geography lessons in school, and what do you learn? What do you learn during geography classes? You learn about land, landforms, features of the land, the inhabitants, the phenomenon of the earth and other planets, and so on. Now, in our poem, Geography Lesson, what does Zulfikar Ghosh have to say? Let's go through the poem quickly and find out. Now, let me read the poem for you. Geography Lesson by Zulfikar Ghosh. When the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had. Seeing it scaled 6 inches to the mile, there seemed an inevitability about what on ground had looked haphazard, unplanned and without style, when the jet sprang into the sky. When the jet reached 10,000 feet, it was clear why the country had cities, where the rivers ran, and why the valleys were populated. The logic of geography. That land and water attracted man was clearly delineated. When the jet reached 10,000 feet, when the jet rose 6 miles high, it was clear the earth was round and that it had more sea than land. But it was difficult to understand that men on earth found causes to hate each other, to build walls across cities, and to kill. From that height, it was not clear why. So, this is a poem, and we have seen that the poet is trying to describe how the earth looks from different heights. But is that all he has to say? Is that all he wants to speak of in our poem? How the earth looks from a height, from 6 feet, from 10,000 miles, from space, and so on. These are all taught in our geography class. But as a poet, there is something more. Something more is hidden in the poem. And as lovers of poetry, as lovers of literature, let's find out what the poet is trying to say. What is that message which is concealed in the poem? Okay? Now, let's go through the lines one by one. When the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had, seeing it scaled 6 inches to the mile. So, in the geography book or on a map, on atlas, see, you cannot draw the world. So the scale is given 6 inches to a mile. 1 mile is equivalent to 6 inches. When the jet sprang into the sky, when the jet moved into this sprang, sudden movement, and at a great height sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had. Now, when you are on the ground, when you are on the earth, you see the cities, you see certain development of the cities, you see the constructions, and you don't know the reason why it is done that way. But when you go up in the sky, yes, there is a reason behind. Now, let's continue. There seemed an inevitability about what on ground looked haphazard, unplanned, and without style when the jet sprang into the sky. So when the jet sprang into the sky, what looked haphazard, what looked unplanned, what looked without style has all got a meaning. So from a height, the look is different. How you know your city, how you know your country, how you know your land is different from how you see it from certain height. When the jet reached 10,000 feet, it was clear why the country had cities, where rivers ran, and why the valleys were populated. The logic of geography that land and water attracted man was clearly delineated when the jet reached 10,000 feet. Now, when you go up in the sky, the logic becomes quite obvious. You can see the logic. You can see that there are rivers, there are valleys, and why there are people more thickly populated than other places in the valleys and in the banks of the rivers. You can see the logic behind how water areas attracted man. You can see and you can be convinced yourself of the logic behind the setting of things in nature. When the jet rose 6 miles high, it was clear the earth was round and that it had more sea than land. So you can see that the area of land is very less compared to the area covered by water. Because you can see the earth from a height, from a distance. And from that distance, you can see more of the earth than you could when you were on the ground. But it was difficult to understand that the men on earth found causes to hate each other, to build walls across cities and to kill. From that height, it was not clear why. Now, here is what the poet wants to say. Yes, everything can be explained by logic. Everything can be explained by reason. Geography classes can explain. Geography will explain it. But there are certain things that the poet does not understand. And what is that thing the poet does not understand? The poet does not understand why people hate each other. The poet is not able to understand why people build walls across each other. The poet is not able to understand why people kill. That height that he has reached cannot explain the reasons behind the violence and the hatred and the killing of men by men. Now, children, in this class, you will notice that the geography lesson is not the explanations of the features and the landforms of the earth. The poet seeks an explanation of why men hate each other. Now, you can find some autobiographical element in the poem. You see that the poet has witnessed the partition, okay? And he grew up as a Muslim, and he had to go to that part of Pakistan, and again he had to go to England. There's a lot of conflicts in his life. He comes across a lot of cultural differences that he wants to tell us that in the geography class, just knowing about the land, about the features, about the inhabitants, about the phenomenon of the earth is not enough. We also have to understand the human geography, our culture, our history, our religion and language. So only when we understand this, then we can say that yes, there will be no such wars and there will be no such hatred among each other. You see, the poet Zulfikar Ghosh gives us an idea of how the earth looks from distance from the sky. Seen from the moon or from the space, the earth is one blue planet. There is a wholeness of the earth from some distance. But you come closer and closer, and you will see and feel a sense of alienation, because the land part and the water part are alienated from each other. The land is divided from the water. Come still closer. You'll find the land portion divided by rivers and mountains. Come still closer, you will find man-made boundaries between one country and another country. The Great Wall of China, German Wall, for example. Come still closer, you will find boundaries between small states. Come still closer, you will find boundaries in your neighborhood. Come still closer, you will find boundaries, fences among brothers and sisters. So these are the signs of hatred and alienation. But still, you can see the world as one. When you go up in the Z, spring up into the sky, you can see one world, one nation. The reason why men hate each other, the reason why men fight and kill each other, cannot be explained by geography lesson. It can be understood only by understanding human geography, understanding each other's culture, respecting their history, respecting the religion and language. So this is what Zulfikar Ghosh is trying to say in the geography lesson. In the next class, we are going to discuss the question answers of the poem. Please go through the poem, and if there is any difficulty, any problem, we are going to discuss it in the next class. We will go into more technical side of the poem in the next class. So, as of now, thank you and good day.